The Kansas City Chiefs are now 5-1 after a 19-8 win against the Denver Broncos, and they just keep showing us the different ways that they can win. They absolutely smothered on defense all night, and Travis Kelce yet again had a big game. But it's still safe to say that outside of him, the offense still hasn't found its identity yet, and that's what makes this team so dangerous. They're sitting with a 5-1 record and don't even know what they exactly want to do yet. And they can still make a trade too. If they brought in a decent receiver at the deadline to help Mahomes, then that could put the Chiefs in the mix of teams like the 49ers and Dolphins. I know the story of the Chiefs season so far has been Taylor Swift, which is pretty annoying to a lot of people, but it's brought so much attention to this franchise, and they went from being one of the most hated teams to America's team overnight. Anyways, in case you missed the most recent game against the Broncos, to give a short recap, Mahomes threw for a quiet 306 yards with only one touchdown to Kadarius Toney before halftime. The Chiefs were pretty much in control of the game all 48 minutes, and Harrison Butker got a ton of action, making 4 field goals, including a 60-yarder. Moving on, now I want to talk about some of the upcoming young guys, beginning with one of the most unlikely guys to be on this list before the season started, and second-year cornerback Jaylen Watson. When the Chiefs first selected Watson in the 2022 NFL Draft, he was a complete afterthought, a long shot of a 7th round choice who could compete with fellow draftees Trent McDuffie, Joshua Williams, and Najee Johnson for special teams reps, and a spot on the active roster. McDuffie was an automatic call, and Williams likely had a long leash to help him out, but no one could have predicted what Watson has turned into for this team. He had a superb rookie campaign with that game-winning pick 6 off Justin Herbert as the highlight of the season, and he had another 2 interceptions and 4 deflected passes in the postseason. Next up, I have Isaiah Pacheco. He's a tough-as-nail runner who runs like he's actively punishing the ground beneath him. Even beyond his role with the best team in the NFL over the last few years, he also has a great story as a former 7th round pick who has climbed all the way to hold the title of being that lead back. But here's the rub about him. He's not a guy that can stay on the field on all 3 downs for the majority of the game. He works best in tandem with Jerick McKinnon, which isn't a bad thing, but he's just not going to get his name out there and put up numbers. But I don't really think he cares about that. He just wants to help the team win in whatever way he can. Alright, now it's time to get into the real reason why the Chiefs have gotten off to this start, and I'm sure it won't take you long to figure out who I'm talking about because it's obvious that Mahomes has been carrying the team on his back since day one. This is by no means the same Chiefs team that won the Super Bowl last year, but behind center, they got a guy who is going to go down as a top 3 QB of all time to play this game, and every night, he does something new that we have never seen before. The Chiefs really should have scored more in that Broncos game. The 19 points they put on the board was kinda deceiving because like I said, with how Harrison Butker had 4 field goals, they went just 1 of 5 in the red zone, but some credit does have to go to that Denver defense because they held their own. Overall, I don't think the Chiefs should be discouraged by their performance. Obviously they can do better and have things to improve on, but I don't think anyone expected for things to just start clicking early on in the season with how young and inexperienced the wide receiving core is. And that's exactly what I want to get into next. Who are some of the options they could trade for? Because if they want to run it back and win another Super Bowl, they probably have to go out and at least get one more guy for Mahomes. The first guy I think Kansas City should look to acquire is Hunter Renfrow from the Las Vegas Raiders. I know it's an interdivision trade, but let's just face it, the Raiders are done, and they should have no reason to feel the need to keep Renfrow around. And from the Chiefs' perspective, this is still a guy that can put up production. He just hasn't had any chemistry at all really with Jimmy Garoppolo, which means Renfrow himself might want to leave the situation anyways. And in case you were curious who the Chiefs have that they could trade away to bring in somebody, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is your answer. Isaiah Pacheco and McKinnon have pretty much taken over the running back duties, and he needs a new situation. And I'm sure a team that has nothing to lose would gladly bring him in. Anyways, another receiver that I think the Chiefs front office should be eyeing up is Adam Thielen, who has been tearing it up for the Panthers, whose season is already all but done. I'm not sure if Carolina would be wanting to give up Bryce Young's #1 weapon because he is still developing, but if they're looking to build for a stronger future, they might as well just trade him for some assets, because at this point, they need to start worrying more about building the core that will be around Young for years to come, rather than older guys, but I'm sure the experience is nice to have. If the Chiefs could stack Kelce and Thielen by each other, then to me, pretty much all of their problems would be solved. Thielen is a consistent and clever route runner that just gets the job done, and he wouldn't have any pressure on him for being the wide receiver 1 because Kelce obviously will always be leading the team in targets. It'll be interesting to see if the Chiefs do decide to make a trade or if they decide to ride things out with what they have, but like I said, it's obvious that some of the young guys like Kadarius Toney are not ready for the moment. And there was literally a clip I saw of Mahomes having to walk him through where to stand before a snap, and he is also the reason they have their one loss against the Lions. Anyways, now I want to switch things over and talk about the defense for a little bit because they really were smothering and they took advantage of a washed up Russell Wilson and only allowed Denver to score a whopping 8 points. Coming into this season, this was an unsettled group because of the Chris Jones situation, but once things got resolved, they were quickly able to lock in and start performing at a high level. Over the offseason, they did lose a few key experienced pieces like Juan Thornhill and Frank Clark, but that was to be expected because after putting together seasons like they had over the last few years, it's impossible to pay everyone. And I think the front office did a very solid job of deciding who to let go and who to keep. And they also brought in some talent through the draft as well to replace what they lost. This defense really did make the Broncos offense look like a peewee team, and as soon as they got in Wilson's head, they never let up. Throwing for under 100 yards and having 2 interceptions is just embarrassing, and it honestly sucks to see this happen to Russ because it seems like his career is just about done. But even with how good they played, the question still remains, are they really that good, or has this all just been a big fluke? Well, one stat that stands out when trying to answer this question is that they have shut out opposing offenses for 12 quarters this season, which is the most of any team in the NFL. And they've also held 3 of 6 opponents so far to 10 points or lower. So I'm not saying that they're going to be able to keep this up, but the answer as of right now is yes, they have been that good. But they definitely have some tougher opponents coming up on the schedule, and we're really going to see what happens when they're tested. But at the end of the day, they got Mahomes, Kelce, and the best head coach in the league in Andy Reid, so they're going to find a way to be a force no matter what happens. As long as everyone can stay healthy, then this is going to be a super fun year, and this team is in it to win it all. Even though they are coming off a Super Bowl, they have made it to at least the AFC Championship for a few years in a row, and anything short of that would be a big disappointment. That's all I have to say for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, make sure to drop a like and subscribe because your support truly means the world. We are on the road to 20,000 subscribers, and I believe you all can help me get there super fast. And with the NFL season well underway, there is just so much to talk about across the whole league, so definitely let me know what you would like to see next. And until then, I will see you all later.